Yeah. Well, just to kind of rub in the point about how easy and elementary this, action is in the reaction sort of understanding of terrorism tactics is. This is a short clip here, just 30 seconds or so, Mark, from Rambo 3. This is John Trockman, the guy that's always getting Rambo into trouble and then saving him at the end, or vice versa, explaining to the Soviet commander, the KGB commander, how this game works from, this is, I guess, 1986, 87 here.
You started this damn war. Now you have to deal with it.
And we will. It is just a matter of time before we achieve a complete victory.
You know there won't be a victory. Every day your war machines lose ground to a bunch of poorly armed, poorly equipped freedom fighters. The fact is that you underestimated your competition. If you'd studied your history, you'd know that these people have never given up to anyone. They'd rather die than be slaves to an invading army. You can't defeat a people like that. We tried. We already had our Vietnam. Now you're going to have yours.
You know, we're such morons. I mean, we even want to gloat at people about how we supposedly learn from history. And when we can't gloat about winning a war, we'll gloat about how we learn from history and you don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're silly. You listen to that because I know that was kind of the country's mood at the time. We were still sort of, suffering from so-called Vietnam syndrome where we weren't sure if we had the appetite yet to go around invading countries again. But, obviously we got that back in the next, about 5-6 years after that movie, 4 or 5 years. And
yeah, Operation Yellow Ribbon in 1991.
Oh, right, yeah. Actually, it was a few years after that, exactly.
Yeah, George Carlin said, we left a few women and children alive in Vietnam and haven't felt good about ourselves since. And that's why George Bush Sr. had to say, this will not be another Vietnam. This time we're going all the way.
Yeah. Well, and there was that Saturday Night Live skit where Dana Carvey says, we've learned the lesson from Vietnam. Stay out of Vietnam. I think that's pretty much all we learned. Like, okay, let's not invade that country again. Let's go a couple countries over to try there.
That's pretty funny. I didn't remember that one. All right, well, now, so you referred to what's going on in Chechnya there. Now, people can kind of dial their map over, I don't know how many thousand miles, a couple or so, to the west of the Afghanistan quagmire, to the space over there between the Black and Caspian Seas, north of Iran and Turkey, over there by Azerbaijan and Georgia, and then the Caucasus Mountains there, I guess, split the space between the two seas. And on the north side of the Caucasus, that's Russian territory. And on the south side of the Caucasus, that's Georgia and also the newly independent Abkhazia and South Ossetia. And I hope I even set that up right. And then, but you were referring to American attempts to destabilize the region, and made me think of headlines I've seen recently about bombings in Chechnya, police officers kidnapped and killed. Of course, we all know, everyone knows, and the government admits and brags that they're paying Jundullah to do that inside Iran. I wonder if that's what you were referring to. Do you think that the CIA or the Special Operations Command are behind some of the recent violence in Chechnya there?
Well, this is speculation, but there's a lot of, put it this way, and I don't have the name in front of me. There's some kind of a advocacy group or NGO organization in favor of, freeing the Chechen people, and it had, has all the big names from all the big neocon names in this organization, and
the Committee for Peace in Chechnya.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has, and these guys. Chechens are the only Muslims in the entire world that these guys love. Anywhere else, they want Muslims, penned up and walled up and shot or something. But in Chechnya, suddenly they just find their love for them. And, you have to be very, very skeptical. What are these guys doing? Why are their hearts bleeding for the Chechens? And, well, the obvious answer is oil. There's an enormous amount of oil in the Caspian Sea region, which is near the Caucasus. And the only way to get the oil out of the Caspian Sea area is either through Iran Taliban, which obviously isn't going to happen, or through some of these newly independent states, which are on Russia's southern border, and which border Chechnya. Chechnya, as you know, is a province or a republic in Russia proper, but it's a sort of, Russia has a bunch of ethnic republics within the Russian Federation. In any event, and the thinking goes, and there's again a decent amount of evidence that the CIA and other Western agencies have been involved in kind of keeping Russia pinned down and destabilized in that region while we move in and take control of the Caspian Sea oil. Cheney in the late 90s said that the Caspian Sea oil was the last great, basically unexploited oil and gas reserve in the world, and it was a strategic interest of America to get a hold of it. We used the war on terror to set up bases all in that region and basically try to turn a lot of those states into American satellite states. And Georgia in particular, pretty much, Georgia is located between Azerbaijan and the Black Sea. Azerbaijan is where the actual oil is in the Caspian Sea in Azerbaijan, but it's got to go through Georgia. So we engineered the Rose Revolution in 2003 to put in a friendly pro-American leader there. He quickly approved this Western British Petroleum pipeline, and we had Green Berets there supposedly helping train the Georgians to root out Al-Qaeda cells in Georgia, which everybody knew was ridiculous. Really, we turned Georgia into a puppet state, and then that puppet state, as we all know, last year it went bonkers and wound up invading South Ossetia, which sparked a war with Russia, and now we got that mess today. Basically, it's just one giant Buster Cluck, as I like to call it.
I read an interview with, I think it's Vladimir is his first name, Zhirinovsky. I'm sure you're much more familiar than I, but in the 1990s, he was a pretty large character in Russian politics, at least in American media. And it was a really interesting interview. It was a female reporter, and she was on a boat with him going down the river for 3 days or something, and he had coke and whores everywhere and was partying and trying to seduce her the whole time and whatever. So it made for a really interesting read. And he talked about how the obvious future is that Russia should join NATO and be part of the alliance, and there will be one big superpower, basically, of the white North versus the new enemy, Islamic South Asia. And I just wonder, why didn't they just go with the Zhirinovsky plan? It seems like, it's more or less in congruence with the idea that the European and Western world ought to dominate the rest of the world forever, right?
Yeah, but everybody, first of all, everybody's just too damn greedy. If you know what I mean? Like, when you get a bunch of powerful people in the room, and we already do dominate the world. What it is now is it's if you look at the powerful few countries as oligarchs, now they're all fighting for amongst each other to carve up the resources. I mean, the thing about Zhirinovsky is he's an interesting guy. He's very, He's very smart. He says things. He floats trial balloons of ideas, especially the wackier ideas that are kind of being discussed in the halls of power in Russia. But he's a plant. I mean, he was set up under Gorbachev. He's a former KGB spy of some kind, and when Gorbachev, allowed more and more democracy, they understood that nationalism and some kind of quasi-fascism had a pretty broad appeal. So they had one of their own guys, Zhirinovsky, who's a great actor, play that role. And the funny thing is he's half Jewish. He hid that for a while. And Zhirinovsky in 1993, after Yeltsin sent tanks against his own parliament, then he held elections, and it was Zhirinovsky who won overwhelmingly. And at that time, he was saying he was going to take back Alaska by force. set up giant fans in Kaliningrad and blow all of Russia's toxic waste into Germany.